Recently, when supervising my scoping review students, I realized that there seems to be some general weakness in understanding scoping review analysis methods and making the right decisions on what analysis to do in scoping reviews. So let's have a look at that today. Hi there, I'm Dr. Kenyon Wong and I teach research at 2 UK universities and run a business supporting postgraduate students on their research dissertations and theses. In this video, I will explain the questions you need to ask yourself before you make the choice on the analysis methods for your scoping review. But before we go into that, we'll first begin with understanding the sandbox that we're playing within, i.e. what you can do and cannot do in a scoping review. Take this video as a companion and consider the prompts that I'm providing you. You'll find a helpful infographic to download in a video description that will support you, but for now, stay with me on this video and let me walk you through the thought process. Now, I know many of you need citations because you're doing this as part of an academic piece of work, so I've included citations in my video as well. The reference list can be found in the description. I will not go into details on how to execute each analytical method that belongs in a different video or an online course. If that is of interest, let me know in the comments below as well. Let's start with the fundamentals. Think of yourself as a tour guide on the bus. Your readers are the tourists. Your job is to point out the landscape of research. On the right, you'll see a cluster of studies on this subject. On the left, there's a clear gap in the evidence. Up ahead is where the research is heading, and behind us is how the research has evolved over the years. What you don't do in a scoping review is to zoom in and analyze the mountain's composition. 75% feldspar, 15% clay. That level of detail belongs to more advanced review types. Your role in a scoping review is to map and chart, but not interpret or evaluate. This means that you do not use methods like meta-analysis, meta-ethnography, meta-aggregation. You also don't judge quality, weigh evidence, or recommend the best intervention. Those actions fall outside the remit of mapping. The analytical approaches suited to a scoping review are those that stay quite descriptive. For example, a descriptive analysis, or sometimes also called numerical summaries, inductive content analysis or deductive content analysis, which would also include framework-supported approaches. A common point of confusion is thematic analysis. Many students choose thematic analysis even though it's inappropriate. Alexey and O'Malley, 2005, described the use of thematic construction, but then they later described their application to the results in categories, not themes. Levac et al. 2010 then later clarified that this analytical stage that Alexey and O'Malley are referring to resembled qualitative data analytical techniques, and researchers may consider using qualitative content analytical techniques. Later in the JBI methodology publication, Pollock et al. 2023 explains that thematic analysis is inappropriate. It is not common for authors to use qualitative synthesis approach that goes beyond the scope of a scoping review, such as thematic synthesis or a meta-aggregative approach. These approaches are not appropriate within a scoping review, which would align more appropriately with a systematic review. A simple way to understand this: in inductive content analysis, categories, sometimes loosely called as themes, emerge from repeated ideas and the frequency of these ideas. However, in thematic analysis specifically, themes are built not on frequency, but on interpretive importance. The keenness of a theme is not necessarily dependent on quantifiable measures. That interpretive depth pushes you beyond mapping. This is why thematic analysis is not considered appropriate for scoping reviews. Before choosing an analysis method, you need to understand the type of data you are extracting. Your research question tells you what you're looking for, but your extraction sheet determines what you actually have to work with. The nature of your data set should guide you on your choice of analysis. Ask yourself, what will my extracted data look like? If it is mostly structured and numerical data, then descriptive analysis is likely the answer. If your extraction sheet contains mainly publication years or countries and regions, study design, sample characteristics, intervention types, outcome categories, then your data set is structured and largely quantitative. The most appropriate approach would be descriptive numerical analysis, things like counts, percentages, frequencies, simple tables or chart. These would work better for you. you. This method gives readers a clear overview of the research landscape. If your data is textual or conceptual data and you're not using a pre-existing framework, inductive content analysis is likely the answer. If your extraction sheet contains textual or conceptual information like the author's definitions and interpretations, or the description of patient experiences, or the reported barriers of facilitators, key concepts in the literature, for example, then your data is largely qualitative. Use inductive content analysis to organize the data into categories that emerge from the information itself. You are summarizing and clustering ideas, not interpreting meaning. This method works well for mapping experiences, barriers, or concepts in the literature, and works very well with the use of frequencies and number counts as well. Now, if your data is textual or conceptual data, but you're mapping it to a framework, then deductive content analysis will work better. If a data extraction contains qualitative data and you have already a relevant framework that you are thinking of using, like Tidier for interventions or a social ecological model, then deductive content analysis is appropriate. You map the data directly on predefined categories of the framework. This provides structure, clarity, and alignment with your research purpose. Match your analysis method to your data. If it's numerical, more structured, then we're looking at descriptive analysis. Textual, conceptual, and you are looking at what emerges from the data, then inductive content analysis will work best. Textual and conceptual, but you are using a pre-existing framework, then deductive content analysis might work better. Take a close look at your data extraction before you decide. Quite often, you'll find yourself using multiple analytical methods because for most of you, you'll be extracting a range of elements. Some are better analyzed descriptively and some are more categorical. So let's have a look at some of this in action so that you can appreciate how multiple approaches can work together. In this paper by Ho et al., their aim was to understand attitudes and experiences, so most of the extracted data were descriptive statements from the included studies. They use inductive content analysis, organizing their findings into 7 categories, such as pharmacists' knowledge and pharmacists' attitudes. You will notice some frequency counts in the writing, but bulk of it is straightforward summarizing and collating of the information that was in the paper. No interpretation, no thematic development. This is a good example of using inductive content analysis for experiential or conceptual topics. In this paper by Alexander et al., here the authors extracted structured data such as intervention features, reproducibility elements, and mapped them onto an existing framework. They reported percentages, numeric distributions, and even used visual displays like bar charts. The deductive content analysis over here, mapping to the framework, was just one component. The rest was numerical and descriptive, which is very typical for a scoping review with intervention-focused research question. In this paper by Andres et al., in contrast, this review relied entirely on descriptive numerical analysis. They reported how many studies used particular outcomes, which types of intervention appeared most often, and so on. They do not group concepts or explain the findings in depth. This is appropriate when the extracted data is highly structured and does not require categorization. As you can see, analysis and scoping review is not a singular choice. It is somewhat of a sliding scale. If you are a researcher, you need to decide where your review sits on that sliding scale. Most scoping reviews naturally combine descriptive analysis with one form of content analysis, and the key is to make your choice based on the nature of your data, the purpose of your review, and stay within the descriptive remit of a scoping review methodology. And once you decide, make sure you explain your analytical steps clearly in your method section so your readers can follow your logic. In this video, we've covered a small part of aligning the data extraction with the analysis component, but this is only a fraction of your research design. If you want to learn more about diagnosing alignment issues in your whole study, I have an online course that helps and teaches you how to check for alignment problems using an Excel spreadsheet that I have created. The link to this online course is in the video description below. Hopefully now you feel more confident in understanding the analytical methods used in scoping reviews and making a defensible choice. In the video description, you'll find all of the references that I've cited here. And I've also provided you with a little freebie. Download my little infographic that I've designed to help you with this decision. It captures everything in this video and is more like a worksheet to help you apply what you have learned. If you are here, I would think scoping reviews are of interest to you, so check this video out on how AI can be used for scoping reviews, and I'll see you in the next video. Goodbye!